So now let's deal with fractions and how to really reduce them or show equivalent fractions. So you start out with something like 2 over 8. And essentially the reduced form is 1 over 4. So how did I get that? So I started out with 2 over 8. And you look at the top and the bottom, you say to yourself, what's really divisible by both? Like, you know that 8 is a multiple of 2. 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8. 2 times 1 is 2. I can really reduce this. I can divide the top by 2. So, punch in your calculator, 2 divided by 2. I get 1. Take the bottom and do, 8 divided by 2. And I get 4. And that's all there is to it. You can get the biggest fractions. You can get any type of fractions. And this is just a general way of doing it. You find something that's common to both. And whatever you do to one side, you do to the other. You want to reduce the top by a factor of, let's just say 3. You want to divide the top by 3 if it was a multiple of 3. You divide the bottom by a multiple of 3. So let's get some random number. I don't know, 195 over 10. So you look at that and you say to yourself, hey, what are really multiples of 10? Because 10 is really the smallest one, so it's easy to deal with. If you had something big, you kind of just guess. If it's an even number, it's probably divisible by 2. If it ends in a 5 or 0, it's divisible by 5. So look at the bottom. Let's start with the bottom. So I know I can divide that by 5. 10 divided by 5 is 2. Now I look at the top. Okay, I know that that's divisible by 2 because it ends in a 5. All multiples of 5 end in 0 or 5. So I punch in my calculator, 195 divided by 5, and I get 39 over 2. Now I can't reduce that anymore. I can't, the 2 I can only divide it by 2. The top I can't divide by 2 because if you punch in 39 divided by 2 in the calculator, it's 19.5. So you can't, this doesn't really, you'll really get, 19.5 over 1, which is just 19.5. And that's really where whole numbers are really written like this. If you have 23, that's really 23 over 1, but nobody really likes the over 1, just like this. When you do 39 divided by 2, so you divide the top by 2, you divide the bottom by 2, and that's really what division is. So, but if you want to just keep it this way, if you want to convert it to mixed fractions, you can do whatever. This video is just intended for reduction. What is another example? Oh, when you want to reduce a mixed number. So let's just say 23 and 4 over 12. You never have to touch the, when reducing, you never have to touch the large number. So we can keep that the same. And I'll show you why that is. And we look at 4 over 12. Well, 4 is, you can, start out with, you can say 4 is a multiple of 2 and then divide that by 2. Or you can just look at 12 and notice that, 4 times 3 is 12. So you look at the top, divide the top by 4. You're, each time you do something like this, you're keeping the same percent. So 2 over 8 is 25%. 1 over 4 is 25%. That's why I'm able to write the equal sign, because I didn't really change anything. I just changed my scale. So instead of saying, for example, um from let's just say from here to Toronto is a certain percent distance compared to from here to Alberta, for example. And then changing my scale and saying, oh, that's the same as saying like this, like 10 centimeters in a 30 centimeter ruler. That's just 33%. So you're just changing the scale. You're saying instead of dealing with a big number, I'll reduce it to a small number, but it has the same meaning, percent wise and calculation wise. So 4 divided by 4, that's 1. 4 divided by 12 divided by 4 is 3. And then that's essentially what you get. If you want to carry this over to do, improper fraction, whatever you want to do, that's fine. So why, if this is all right with you, then you can just move on to the move on to the next unit. So the end right here for you. If you have, this is completely fine. If you want to see why we don't touch the big number, this is essentially why. So you remember when I showed you that, to convert this to improper fraction, you take the whole number times 12. So brackets just means, you do that first before you do the adding. It's 4 over 12. And you want it to, do the same thing. I want to divide the bottom by 4, divide the top by 4. So, divide the bottom by 4, you'll get 3. Now divide the top by 4. If you don't know how to distribute properly and you just want to write it out by calculating it, that's fine. So you'll do 23 times 12, 276 plus 4, that's 280. So then the top is really 280 divided by 4. I haven't really done that yet. I just calculated what this top is. So you do 280 divided by 4. That's 70 over 30. Now convert it to a mixed fraction. So 70 divided by 3, let's see again, 23.33. So we'll take the whole number and then do 23 times 3 to see how much we accounted for. So we accounted for 23 times 3 is 69. We accounted for 69. So 70 minus 69 is 1. There's 1 left over. And that's just a real example. The general way of looking at it is if you look at the top, because the bottom that got reduced. If you look at the top, you had 23 times 12 plus 4. And we had to divide that top by, 4. Because we reduced to the bottom, we reduced by a factor of 4. We did 12 divided by 4 and we got 3. So now the top we got to divide by 4. Now when it comes to addition, with fractions, you can split the fraction up. So essentially you can do this, plus 4 over 4. And this is essentially, you can choose what you want to divide by 4. So, you can either do 23 times 12 then divide by 4, or do it a different way. So do 23 and then do 12 over 4. So that's just the division of 12 over 4. And then plus 4 over 4, which is just 1. So 23 times 3. Then plus 1. So you can see from here that when you're dealing with the top, this really won't change, because you're gonna have, now you're gonna be saying, oh, it did change. You have 23 times 3 and then you're adding 1. Well, you'll have 23 plus 1 and then the denominator will be 3. Then you do the same procedure again because they're adding. You can split it up. So you have 23 times 3 over 3 plus 1 over 3. So 3 over 3 is just 1, so it would be 23 plus 1 over 3. And then, that's how you get the 23 1/3. You can do, the reason I put the 300, the other 3 is because, it makes it easier. It gives it a 1. You can do 23 over 3, but that'll give you decimal, so you don't want to do that. You can skip all this part, if you're not interested. This is where the real importance of it is. This right here. So if you have an understanding of that, then you can move forward with division and multiplication, because essentially what you want to do is always reduce to the lowest amount and then work from there.